But I actually retired from being in front of the camera at the age of 21.
हैदराबाद के जो निज़ाम थे उनकी भी तो अपनी आर्मी थी या उनकी भी एक फोर्स थी ना?
बाहर से काफ़ी सारे talented लोग आ रहे थे, whether it's fashion designers or photographers or
Fashion icon would have to share in today's time कुछ ऐसी बातें जो आप शेयर करना चाहें.
mainstream television ड्रामे वगैरह उस पे उनका थोड़ा सा था कि भाई वो एक टाइम आ गया कि everybody had to cover their hair.
इतना पावरफुल ये नंबर है अतिया कि इसमें जो कहते हैं जो इस तारीख को पैदा होते हैं लोग वो इतने ब्लेस्ड होते हैं
and working for all the top advertising agencies of that time. No, so he was the head of the ruling political party.
When did you actually come to Karachi? At what age?
Nightmare of being chased and running.
Wow.
So when I went to Hazrat Lal Shahbaz Qalandar and I started researching and all of that, I found out that his actual name was Usman Marwandi. Them to be able to use the family to get him to concede or sign anything.
Okay.
वो
Family weakness होती है तो उसकी वजह से.
हाँ.
सही. अस्सलाम वालेकुम. वो बातें तेरी चैनल पे नवीद फारूकी का आदाब. मैं आज अपनी पॉडकास्ट सीरीज जेन एक्स टू जेन जी के सिलसिले में फिर हाजिर विद एन अमेजिंग गेस्ट. और ये गेस्ट ऐसी गेस्ट हैं जिनको मैं बहुत अरसे से बुलाने की कोशिश कर रहा था और आज फाइनली वो हमारे साथ हैं. ये अपना तारुफ आप हैं. एक ज़बरदस्त पर्सनालिटी, इनकी जर्नी बड़ी खूबसूरत जो कि वो खुद बताएंगी. इससे पहले मैं कुछ और बताऊं, आई विल टेक यू टू माय गेस्ट अतिया खान. अतिया, हाउ आर यू?
Thank you. I'm well.
मुझे बहुत खुशी आप यहाँ आई. आप सबसे पहले तो कुछ अपना तारुफ कराइए, फिर मैं आपसे आपकी जर्नी की बात करूँगा.
तारुफ क्या कराऊं?
तारुफ में आप ये बताइए अतिया सबसे पहले कि how it all started. I mean, if you take us through very quickly from your young age till today. I know it's not that easy, but it is going to be a lot because बाकी तो मैं आपको मज़ीद डिटेल्स पूछूंगा आपसे, लेकिन कुछ ज़रा ब्रीफली अगर आप चलें आप मुझे बचपन के बारे में बताइए. I want to know your childhood.
Okay, so I was born in Hong Kong and then we moved to Prague, Vienna, Singapore, and then I did my high school in Canada. तो मेरा बचपन जो है वो बहुत सारी मुख्तलिफ़ मुल्कों में गुज़रा. हर जगह 3 से 5-6 साल का अरसा मैंने गुजारा. So
your father was in foreign services also?
So he was in PIA at that time.
Okay. So you travel a lot in PIA then?
So we traveled a lot and he was posted to all these different regions and countries. And वो 60s, 70s का दौर था. So he was basically opening the offices for PIA.
वो हसीन दौर PIA का भी था जो क्या था वो great people to fly with.
Yes.
So and PIA was amazing. So growing up in all those countries, how was it different than here? When did you actually come to Karachi? At what age?
So every year we would come back for the summer vacation. जो हमारे दादा के यहाँ रावलपिंडी में सारी family, my father had 9 siblings, 7 brothers and 2 sisters. तो वो उनके सारे बच्चे, cousins वगैरह, तो हर साल हम लोग सब जो है इकट्ठा होते थे. But when I actually moved back to Pakistan was briefly before high school for 2 years and then basically at the age of 18.
So before 2 years जो आप बात कर रही हैं, तो was it Karachi that you were here?
Yes.
And आपने पढ़ाई की यहाँ पर?
मैंने 2 साल इधर पढ़ाई की है.
Okay. And where did you study here?
So it was between years and stuff like that. So I was at the Center for Advanced Studies.
Okay. So meaning that you didn't have a chance to study Urdu or read Urdu?
Yes.
And I and understand that because you know you grew up in all those countries. उस वक्त तो इस किस्म का स्कूलिंग सिस्टम भी हमारे नहीं थे जहाँ पर आपको वो चीज़ मिलती. But you speak very well, माशाल्लाह से you speak very well.
तो स्पोकन मेरी सही है क्योंकि घर पे इंसिस्ट किया जाता था कि आप उर्दू में बात करें ताकि वो यू नो उर्दू की प्रैक्टिस रहती थी. लेकिन वो पढ़ना लिखने में थोड़ा सा आई सफ़र्ड because obviously when you're in different countries, like when I was in Vienna, I had to learn German, so my first language was actually German. तो उस तरह से मतलब है आप फिर you know बहुत ज़्यादा, and I'm not that good with languages, so I couldn't pick up Urdu.
So this Atiya that we see today as a young girl or a jawan ladki जिसको हम कहेंगे, was it this calmness, this serenity was always there?
No, not at all.
So वो चंचली सी थी यानी जिसको कहते हैं very vibrant?
I wouldn't say chanchali. I think I was very serious throughout, but I had a lot of anger. I had a lot of aggression. I think I had kind of a very attitude. I had an attitude.
And arrogant as well?
Yes.
Okay. Was it because of your beauty? Or the
no,
or the
I think
family?
it was more. I mean, I think more than the beauty. I think I was more proud of my intelligence or mind or.
I'm coming to that.
Yeah.
So, and this is when you actually started your fashion or modeling thing, 18 plus?
Yes, around that time.
And what brought you there?
So basically, you know, it was the time जब बाहर से काफ़ी सारे talented लोग आ रहे थे. You know, whether it's fashion designers or photographers or makeup artists, you know, Tariq and Rizwan.
And this is mid-80s, right?
Yeah, Arif Mahmood and Ruha Ghaznavi and I was also basically working at an advertising agency, Sasa, doing copywriting. So there was this new kind of revival or initiation, pioneering of, you know, fashion and advertising and, you know, all these fields. और मसला ये था कि मॉडल्स की बहुत सख्त कमी थी. So I would really get it wasn't my interest, but I would kind of get not bullied, but kind of convinced कि भाई please कर लो ये वो. उस ज़माने में modeling was more like a hobby. It wasn't really a profession.
Yeah.
So it was done very sort of, you know, non-seriously. But for some reason, I think क्योंकि वहाँ उस ज़माने में बहुत कम publications थी, तो आप एक आध magazine में आ गए या billboard या TV पे आ गए, तो then overnight you know the whole country.
Yeah.
Knew
So
you.
do you remember the first campaign or first assignment that you got? Or the first
No.
one which actually made you a supermodel, that you became supermodel of
So
that
I
time?
think I started with the fashion, you know, Ramp and magazines, you know, Newsline and वो एक आध जो भी उस ज़माने की Herald वगैरह की magazines थी. But
Women's
then
Own, Mag, Herald, यही सब थे?
Yeah, but sort of I was more, I think वो She magazine वगैरह भी थे. So yeah, but I think as far as campaigns is concerned, it was, I think Bata kind of was one of the early ones.
Bata by
that I
choice,
did.
I
Bata
think.
by choice, yeah. And it, you know, so it just kind of started.
Okay, that's great. And then that led into acting as well? Or
Kind
acting
of,
came lot after that?
acting also was around a little after that, a year or so after that. But you know, I actually retired from being in front of the camera at the age of 21.
Okay.
So this
you started at
whole-
18 and retired at 21.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So it was a very short
Okay.
period of time.
And
where
why?
I was never really interested in being in front of the camera. I found it very boring. My passion was behind the camera.
So you became a director?
So I had been behind the camera even before, but वो फिर एक conflict of interest होने लग गया था, and I felt that I have to then make a choice and focus entirely behind the camera.
So what was your venture? What did you venture into?
So initially it was making TV commercials. So I was a freelance ad filmmaker and working for all the top advertising agencies of that time. Because उस ज़माने में ना बहुत senior आदमी, old men were basically filmmakers and in the advertising industries. So I was able to bring, I think, a new kind of fresh perspective, and it did really, really well, and I earned awards, and so that was a.
So did you ever got a chance to actually have those all those things archived or have it anywhere, any platform?
बहुत कम है because उस ज़माने में
नहीं था system?
वो हाँ इतना I think एक आध ad है, I think रफान जली का जो ad है that is somewhere around. कुछ ads हैं जो जिनकी मतलब that got saved, but a lot of work was lost at that time.
So Atiya, your journey goes on, and then you got married at, I think, an early age.
So my first marriage was at the age of 19, and so most of the time when I was modeling, I was married,
Okay.
and I got divorced at the age of 21, and that was the time that I stopped modeling and went behind the camera.
Okay. And then did you have any children with?
Not from that marriage.
Okay.
No.
And then you got married again?
Then I got married again at the age of 27.
Okay. And then you have.
So my 2 kids are from my second
Okay.
marriage.
And how old are your children now?
So my daughter is 23 and my son is 26.
Noor is your daughter, right?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful.
She's going to be 23 now.
MashaAllah.
This year.
So now 18 to 27, being a mother, I mean, you became mother at the age of 27. Did you work afterwards?
So after I got married, I actually did not work for quite a few years. But that was actually the time that I kind of, my spiritual journey kind of took off because, during that time I met my teacher, Sheikh Nazim, and
I'm coming to that.
Yeah.
So what insights and oversights would a veteran model or fashion icon would have to share in today's time? कुछ ऐसी बातें जो आप शेयर करना चाहें और बताना चाहें for हमारी generation जो Z है जो अब चल रही है कि क्या आपकी वहाँ मतलब struggles थी या आपने क्या देखा क्या समझा और अब वो नहीं है या है? How do you actually relate it or how do you explain it?
You mean my journey in
Fashion.
modeling and fashion?
Yeah.
So the times are very different. Well, maybe not so different because वो हम जब modeling वगैरह कर रहे थे तो वो ज़ियाउल हक का ज़माना था. And I think for us, fashion and art and music and film and all became a way of rebelling and a way of pushing back against sort of this new Islamization that was taking over the country. पर अगर अभी आप देखते हैं तो एक वो हम अभी भी उसी दलदल में ही हैं.
बिल्कुल.
You know?
बल्कि अब ज़्यादा मुझे लगता है.
हाँ. In some ways,
तो
yeah.
उस वक्त did you have to face any resistance from any circle?
Well, Ziaul Haq was very clever because he didn't touch the elite.
Okay.
तो वो जो उस लेवल का फैशन हो रहा था या चीज़ें हो रही थी उसमें उन्होंने वो दखल ज़्यादा नहीं देते थे. ही जस्ट इग्नोर दैट. मेन स्ट्रीम टेलीविज़न ड्रामे वगैरह उस पर उनका थोड़ा सा था कि भाई वो एक टाइम आ गया कि एवरीबडी हैड टू कवर देयर हेयर एंड कुछ रिडिक्यूलस किस्म के सेंसरशिप रूल्स आ गए थे. बट इवन despite all of that, the creativity was at such a high to be able to, with all those restrictions, still do powerful creative content. तो वो challenge था उस ज़माने का.
तो अब when you see young girls, in the fashion industry or modeling. How do you, I mean, what do you think about them? I mean, किस तरह से लगता है आपको? Are they doing well? सही जा रहे हैं सब लोग?
I think creativity थोड़ी सी suffer कर गई है because it's become a lot more commercial and much more a business than a creative endeavor. हमारे ज़माने में it was much more about creativity than the business of.
अभी पिछले दिनों मैं देख रहा था, शायद पिछले साल there was this fashion show that you were choreographing or you were curating, and then I saw your posts with models, उनको ट्रेनिंग या सिलेक्शन करना था. तो क्या मतलब कैसा लग रहा था ये सब करते हुए? आई एम श्योर आपने बहुत दफ़ा किया होगा, बट अभी रिसेंटली किया तो मैं पूछना चाहूँगा.
So that was the fashion week that happened, and it was a good experience. I haven't done too much of that. वो माहीन खान थी, तो she kind of insisted and brought me on board, and it was overall a good experience, but it's not something that I would be interested in pursuing.
अच्छा. On that note, for my viewers, I would like to mention something very powerful and interesting, which Atiya might be aware of or might be not. Atiya is a very spiritual woman और इनकी एक पूरी spiritual journey है, और वो हम आपसे बात भी करेंगे उस पर. लेकिन उससे पहले आपको पता है, आप when you were born, your birth date 22nd, do you know how powerful is that?
The number 22?
Yeah, that's a master number, and उसकी significance पता है आपको?
बताएं.
इतना पावरफुल ये नंबर है अतिया कि इसमें जो कहते हैं, जो इस तारीख को पैदा होते हैं लोग, वो इतने ब्लेस्ड होते हैं, इतने ज़्यादा उनके अंदर पोटेंशियल होता है हर किस्म का, जिस फील्ड में भी वो चले जाएं वो कामयाब होते हैं, और कुदरत की उनके ऊपर कोई ब्लेसिंग होती है.
You're also 22nd, ना?
Yeah, I am also 22nd, and then not just 22nd. Matter of fact, मैं ज़िंदगी भर यही सोचता था कि कभी मैं ज़िंदगी में किसी ऐसे इंसान से मिलूँगा जो कि मेरी ही बर्थडे के दिन पैदा हुआ होगा. Then when I found out that you were 22nd Feb, I was very impressed, and I got like very much motivation कि भाई देखो, she's an icon. So आप मुझे छोड़े, मैं आपकी बात करता हूँ. तो जो चीज़ें मैंने देखी आपके अंदर, ख़ास तौर पे जो अभी मैं स्पिरिचुअल जर्नी पे आऊँगा, तो उसका रीज़न है बिकॉज़ वो कुदरत ने आपको शुरू से उस लिहाज पे, जिसको कहते हैं ना, सरपरस्ती की हुई थी. आपके ऊपर ब्लेसिंग थी, एक कुदरती हाथ था आपके ऊपर, जो कि बाद में जाकर आपको किसी ने बताया गया, जैसे आप बताएंगी अब हमें. तो जो ये पावरफुल नंबर है, मास्टर नंबर सिर्फ 2 ही हैं बर्थ डेट्स में, एक 11th और एक 22. 11th जो कि दो महीने में सिर्फ 2 होते हैं, एक 11 और एक 22. जो 22 नंबर है, 22 जो नंबर है, दैट्स द मोस्ट पावरफुल नंबर. इससे बढ़कर कोई नंबर नहीं, क्योंकि आगे फिर 44 आ जाता है जिसमें वो बर्थ डेज नहीं होती. तो आपको बीइंग बोर्न एज ऑन 22nd, तो बचपन में मैं बेबी अतिया की बात करूँ, कभी कोई ऐसी चीज़ या फीलिंग, कोई विजन या ड्रीम आया, कभी महसूस हुआ जो कि अब बाद में आपको आया होगा? वो उस पर मैं आता हूँ, मैं बचपन की बात करूँ, या आपके पेरेंट्स ने बताया हो कुछ?
So I remember being a baby in the cradle and seeing my mother talking to my aunt, and she was concerned about something about me. और वो फिर उन्होंने कुछ बातें की, और फिर वो बातें करते हुए they started walking outside the room, and I remember my consciousness following them and trying to figure out ये क्या बात हो रही है, and then returning, and then like there was a bird eye view where I saw myself as a baby, and I was shocked, and I was like, is that me? So like an out of body experience, and knowing at that young age that I'm this consciousness in the form of this baby.
The vessel,
so the separation was there
of that consciousness. Wow, that's like, I'm getting a goosebumps right now listening to that. So that must be very,
and that's something that continued this sort of getting out of my body at different points growing up. at different, I think, turning points, yeah, important points of my life, where I would just go zoop and then get like a bird's view of, अच्छा ये अब यहाँ भाग रही
लेकिन
है
ये चीज
field में.
आपको कंफ्यूज नहीं करती होगी कि व्हाट इज इट एज अ बेबी और एज अ गर्ल, एंड देन आल्सो योर पेरेंट्स हु वर अराउंड यू, मदर जैसे बात कर रही कि व्हाट इज हैपनिंग, सो जो एक इंट्रीग तो होगा ना, हुआ तो
No, it
होगा?
wasn't confusing. It was. I remember feeling impatient. I remember feeling trapped. I remember
Distressed?
feeling like, oh no, it's a long journey for me to, come on into my own. Because it was like, yeah, it's like being trapped in a baby's body.
या और जो मदर या जो क्लोज सिबलिंग्स, उन लोगों का क्या होता था?
So, like, I mean, I think that I was a very much an adult mind, even as a child. So whether it's conversations with my parents or aunts and uncles or whatever, they would always say that they feel like they're speaking to an adult and not a child, kind of a
तो यानी
thing.
कि वो बचपन से आपके अंदर बूढ़ी रूह थी एक.
Yeah.
ओके. एंड देन कोई आपने बताया आउट ऑफ बॉडी एक्सपीरियंस, कोई और इस किस्म की कोई डेजा वू फीलिंग या कोई लूसिड ड्रीमिंग?
So I remember, and this is when I'm a bit older, I think now entering into the early teens and that age, yeah, pre-teens was this sort of out-of-body experience. And then when I entered into my teens, it was a reoccurring nightmare of being chased and running.
Wow.
And then I remember, and I still can't figure out whether it was someone in my dream or someone, an actual person, who basically said to me that, you can awaken in your dream and you can change the outcome of your dreams. And then I remember that I went through a whole training process in my dream state, where somebody was guiding me on how to start running really, really fast and then take off and fly away.
Wow.
So, and then it was, initially वो थोड़ा करके फिर गिर जाना और फिर करना और फिर, so it was a whole, like, I don't know how long it lasted, till I became adept at actually being able to fly away, and also being able to be aware that I am dreaming and become conscious in my dream state to be able to affect the outcome of my dreams.
So it must be very much overwhelming. I mean, even as a young girl or teenager.
I mean, I didn't know anything different, right? So it
Yeah.
wasn't overwhelming because that
कि
was
आपको
just...
पता था कि यार ये तो part of the game है,
I mean,
जिंदगी
that
का
was
सब.
my experience, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I didn't have any other experience to compare it
Yeah,
with.
but लेकिन अगर किसी को, how would you relate
I
it?
would not relate it.
है ना?
I would not talk about it. It's only now that I talk about these things. But at that time, I think I knew that it's not something to be discussed. I understood कि ये एक हम एक, there's some kind of drama happening and you have to play a role in this drama, and you don't say things that are going to, be so out of the box that people will get concerned.
और मेरे ख्याल से at this point I would like you to take us to the spiritual journey, जो कि इस चीज़ का कनेक्शन भी बनाती है, और वो जाकर वो किस एज में जो आपके जो मेंटोर थे, जो शेख नाजिम, जिनसे आपको ये सादत मिली, जिनसे आपको ये पता चला कि what exactly is your path, जिन्होंने आपको एक पाथ पे डाला, वो हमारे साथ शेयर कीजिए प्लीज़.
So that was actually much later on in life. I do feel that I had spiritual teachers before Sheikh Nazim as well. I believe my father was definitely one of my spiritual teachers. My father-in-law at that time, I took him as a spiritual teacher as well. So I had a lot of father figures who kind of understood me at a much deeper level, and who I had a very spiritual connection with. Sheikh Nazim, I met soon after the birth of my daughter.
That is 28, 29 years?
So 31.
31, okay.
Because I had my son first,
Okay.
and then उसके बाद 3 साल बाद I had my daughter. And तो वो भी एक interesting, it was a interesting way in which I sort of came across him. I had gone to America for the birth of my daughter. उसके बाद वो immigration के लिए we had gone to Canada and I was staying with some relatives. तो वहाँ जो उनके बेटे थे, he was a Khalifa of Sheikh Nazim. तो वहाँ I kind of attended a zikr and I came across his books. And there was this portrait of him, and every time I would pass that portrait, there was a certain pull, like I just felt like I know this person, I need to meet this person. मतलब है कुछ था.
कोई dragging.
There was some,
pull
था. But I was going back to Pakistan. He was in Cyprus. And I thought कि भाई, ये तो, it's not going to be possible. वो उनके खलीफा थे सैन फ्रांसिस्को में. I was going to go back via San Francisco. तो उन्होंने कहा कि आप खलीफा से मिल लें. मैंने कहा no, I'm not interested. There's something about this person. Anyway, I came back to Pakistan and I kind of forgot about it. 3 months later, there was a halchal in the house and we had a guest staying with us. तो वो कह रहे थे कि जी हाँ, वो दुर्दाना वो एयरपोर्ट गई है, कोई शेख हैं, पता नहीं कौन शेख आए हैं. And suddenly my ears kind of, but nobody had any details. And then she calls me out of the blues and saying, I don't know why I kept thinking of you, that you need to meet this person, and so sheikh has come, and it turned out to be Sheikh Nazim. And I was like, oh my God, I've been wanting to meet this person. And I was kind of, she's saying, but abhi fauran aa jao, because abhi you can meet him right now. Otherwise, sham ko he's going to get busy, or wo governor house mein unka wo reception hai, and this, that, and the other. So I was about to rush out when I got a call from my father-in-law. And like I said, I took him as a spiritual teacher. And he said, abhi aao isi waqt mere paas. I said, no, daddy, isi waqt aao. Anyway, I went there. I said, oh, you Sheikh Nazim, I want to go in. Rubbish. Waste of time. इतने कितने हज़ारों लोग होंगे, तुम्हें मिलने का भी चांस नहीं मिलेगा. Stop wasting your time. You just sit here. सुबह का वक्त था. नाश्ता बुलाया. He didn't let me out of his sight. दोपहर हो गई. Lunch बुलाया. He kept, he made sure that I kept sitting with him. शाम हो गई, तो चाय का वक्त हो गया. चलो अब गार्डन में जाके हम चाय पियेंगे. So anyway, by this time I thought, okay, missed opportunity. We're sitting in the garden and suddenly this guest appears with these women in turbans, and तो वो शेख नाजिम की मुरीद थी. तो ये इनको ले गई थी वहाँ ज़ैदा मार्केट कोई शॉपिंग वॉपिंग के लिए. तो वापसी में दे इंसिस्टेड कि भाई वी वांट टू मीट द फैमिली दैट यू आर स्टेइंग विद. तो वो आई वहाँ दूर से, फिर उन्होंने वो मेरी तरफ पॉइंट किया. उन्होंने कहा कि यू हैव टू कम विद अस, यू बिलोंग टू शेख नाजिम. अब इस टाइम तक हमारे सारे वो इन लॉज और मदर इन लॉ एंड सिस्टर और इन लॉ ये वो सब, we were all in the garden, and I started laughing and I started looking at my father-in-law and saying, okay, you have to get his permission. तो वो फिर उन्होंने बड़ी formal एक permission ली, and then he gave me the permission, and then I went off with them. उस टाइम तक वो governor house पे पहुंच गए थे, and when we arrived, so literally there were thousands of people, and he was upstairs and he wasn't coming down because he wasn't feeling well. But because I was with the Murids, I went straight up into his room, and then I saw this Nurani chehra, this Nurani old man, and oh my God, he's not feeling well, and I sympathy, और उनके घुटने में दर्द हो रहा था. तो मैंने एकदम से फिर डैडी को फ़ोन किया, because my mother used to suffer from घुटने का दर्द, और वो बड़ा एक ज़बरदस्त मरहम था उनके पास. मैंने कहा वो मरहम भेजें, ये करें वो करें. In the meantime, Sheikh Nazim said, अच्छा इतने सारे लोग हैं नीचे, I need to go and address them and whatever. So he went down. In the meantime वो मरहम आ गया, फिर वो ऊपर आ गए, फिर उनके बेटे भी साथ थे, तो उन्होंने वो मरहम शरम लगाया. और Now, I haven't said a word to him. He hasn't said a word to me, but it's me, his son, and 3 or 4 of the murids who've come. And it's like I'm meant to be there. Anyway, उनको सुलाया वुलाया, then they all came back to my house and we talked into the night और ये बातें और coincidences, ये क्या हो रहा है और ये कैसे हो रहा है, you know, all of that. Next morning फिर एक और gathering थी at another person's house, so we were all invited. And so then I enter into this house and there's this drawing room and there are like again hundreds of people sitting there. कोई हाथ उठा रहा है कि ये सवाल वो सवाल. But as soon as I entered, I was like, this is not the same person from last night. You know, ये जो मैं I was feeling so sorry. Hi, बेचारे बुजुर्ग कमजोर दुख हो रहा है. No, there was this powerhouse of energy and majesty and why, you know. And I was like, you made a fool out of me. मतलब है, you know, ये आपने जानबूझ के कुछ ये किया है. ये you are not what you presented yourself to be last night. Anyway, तो मैं when I entered, he looked at me like that and he said, you ask me a question. And I was like, I don't have any questions. अभी इतने हजारों लोगों के सामने बंदा क्या सवाल करेगा? You know, I don't have any questions. तो 2-3 और लोगों ने हाथ उठाया तो उन्हें 2-4 और questions दिए. फिर he pointed to me, you ask me a question. It's like, no. तो उस टाइम को मैंने सेकंड टाइम नो किया तो फिर वो मुरीद एक इधर आके बैठी, एक इधर, एक मुझे चुटकी काट रही है, एक मुझे यूं कोनी मार रही है. I was like, what? He's like, you know, if he says something to you, you have to do it. You can't just like, eh. So I was like, अच्छा. So the third time when he said, you ask me something, I said, I'm going to test you in my mind. ऐसा कि मैं एक ज़ाहिरी सवाल करूँगी और एक मैं दिल में सवाल करूँगी और अगर ये आप दोनों के जवाब दे सकें then I'll see if I can take you seriously or not. हाँ, तो टेस्ट मैंने करना था उन्हें. तो मेरा जो ज़ाहिरी सवाल था that had to do with the family, you know, my in-laws, or they were going through a lot of financial issues and business problems and this, that and the other. तो मैंने कहा कि you know, अल्लाह का बहुत शुक्र है. We are very blessed, but ये क्या होता है कि why do problems come in our lives, or why do rukawarts or issues come into our life? And then I said कि in my heart, my heart question was कि do you have a message from God for me? So he said कि when Adam was laid out, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he rained on him 40,000 years of a very painful reign of suffering and misery. But after that, he rained on him 10,000 years of a reign of beauty and healing and joy and happiness. And that rain washed away all the difficulties and the pain. So invariably in a person's life, there's like 3-4 things that go bad, go wrong, but then one thing happens and it clears it all away. And he said also difficulties come due to too much attachment to worldly things. And he said, well, what do you have to do with any of this? The people of heaven get a sense of heaven or the smell of heaven. It won't be something unusual or unknown or kind of unfamiliar. It'll be like you've been on a long journey and you're finally coming back home to your neighborhood, to your home, to where you belong. Okay, fine. You're in heaven now. You've been in heaven for 100 years and you are telling God, no, God, I'm very happy, you know, leave me be. Fine. You are in heaven for 1,000 years. You're still not satisfied. You're like, no, God, I'm happy, you know, let me stay here. Fine. You've been in heaven for 1,000,000 years. What comes next? And then he pointed his finger on my forehead and he says, and then comes creation. and it was like a nuclear bomb went off in my brain, like an explosion. I had no idea what he was saying. I just know that he had taken me on this cosmic journey through pata nahi kya and into this and I knew that some shift had
It's
happened.
happening.
And then that's it. After that, basically, he was going to Islamabad and Lahore, and he wanted me to come, but I had a 3-month-old daughter. I had a 3-year-old son. My in-laws were freaking out by this time कि ये तो पता नहीं कहाँ निकल रही है. So I wasn't given permission to accompany him. But what he did was he made one of the murids stay back with me. For 3 months, she lived with us. And her job was to take me to all the shrines, to introduce me to all the saints, and because I'd never been to a shrine in my life.
आपकी ट्रेनिंग शुरू हो गई है?
Basically, yeah.
So was this the turning point or just the realizing point for you?
So, for me, I had studied Sufism before, but it was more academic and intellectual. So, मेरे दिमाग में ये था कि हाँ, ये पुराने ज़माने की बातें हैं, ऐसे लोग शायद उस ज़माने में होते थे, आजकल ऐसा कोई चक्कर नहीं है. So, it really brought home the fact that, no, this still exists, these tariqas still have power, and there are still people who are connected to another dimension in a formal teaching system. Because I'd come across, like I said, my father and my father-in-law, who I had like a dream connection with, who I had a spiritual connection with. But in terms of a formal Sufi, kind of system, it kind of gave validity to that for me.
And then is that the point when you started exploring more towards Sufism or spirituality?
So not
yet?
Not consciously, but again, it's like things just started happening. So while Zainab was staying with me, she kept saying that we have to go and find Usman Marwandi. So nobody knew who Usman Marwandi was. We kept looking कि भाई Usman Marwandi. Nobody knew कि Usman Marwandi
उनको
कौन
पता
है.
था?
She didn't know where his shrine was,
Okay.
but she kept saying कि we have to go to the shrine. You have to go to the shrine of Usman Marwandi.
ठीक.
खैर वो सारे shrines चले गए, Usman Marwandi नहीं मिले. She went back, and then literally 9/11 happened, and soon after that, I was commissioned by a friend of my husband's and mine as well to go and film the Urs of Hazrat Lal Shehbaz Qalandar.
This is totally different project or proposition.
I mean, they knew that I had entered a Sufi tariqat,
Yeah.
so they thought I was,
This
and
is
I
the
was
right
a filmmaker
person.
as well. I hadn't worked for many, many years. So this was going to be like a comeback
Okay.
for me now, to do something with spirituality and stuff like that. So when I went to Hazrat Lal Shehbaz Qalandar and I started researching and all of that, I found out that his actual name was Usman Marwandi.
Wow.
Yeah.
That must have been very mind-boggling in a way कि आपने फिर उनको बताया होगा.
Matlab, of course, then later on,
Yeah.
but then a lot of other things happened, with the Malangs and the, the Qalandar code and all of that. Yeah.
And is that the point when you started taking hijab or dupatta and then you did zikr se fikr?
Yes. So soon after joining, the silsila and all of that, वो एक होता है ना born again syndrome, या when you initially kind of come towards religion, तो आप ज़रा excess हो जाते हैं. So I was trying to do like everything by the book. But as you kind of study more and, you realize that that is not really essential.
Yeah, but मैं relate करूँगा, मतलब कुछ references. तो क्या आपने उस प्रोग्राम में कुछ मौलवियों के या कुछ स्कॉलर के साथ ठीक ठाक दो हाथ भी किए?
Absolutely. The first जो हमने series की थी ज़िक्र से फ़िक्र तक, that was more the idea was कि एक आप शिया स्कॉलर या शिया आलिम लें, एक आप सुन्नी मौलवी लें, एक आप सूफीज़म से लें और आप एक एकेडमिक से लें, और इन चारों को बिठा के आप एक टॉपिक लें और see where we agree, where we disagree, the different schools of thought,
Okay.
because there's so much diverse opinions between our schools of thought
Absolutely.
to bring some consensus or some okay, where can we be on the same platform. So that was the first series of Zikr se Fikr tak, aur usme ye tha ki bhai shuru mein hi hum sort of pre-recording the show थोड़ी सी वो बात कर लेते थे कि भाई let's try and be tolerant and let's try and hear the other person out, and वो भी because उस ज़माने में काफ़ी सारा वो sectarian भी issues थे, a lot of intolerance between the different sects and the different schools of thought. तो and yes, of course, it was also I was very vocally challenging what didn't make sense. Then we did a second series. First was Zikr, and then the second series was Zikr se Fikr tak, where things had deteriorated even more. And that was more about actually inviting the hardcore Sunni Maulvis who I felt were the issue. The Wahhabis and the, उसमें थोड़े बहुत हम moderates भी ले आते थे, but that was a hard-hitting show about कि ये क्या गंद क्या हो रहा है basically.
Okay, so by this time जो हम बात कर रहे थे पहले आपकी vibrance और ये सारा कुछ गुस्सा anger, अब till now since probably you're in mid 30s, तो वो शुरू हो गया था. The serenity I'm talking about.
To calm down, you mean?
Yeah,
the
yeah,
gussa and all
yeah.
of that?
या अभी वो आगे आएगा.
No, I think it's been a gradual process
Okay.
of sort of, yeah.
Okay. At this point, before I go to Kalandar Code and more things like that, मुझे उसके बारे में आपसे पूछना है. The connection, the Hyderabad Deccan connection, the Qasim connection, oh, that is so powerful and beautiful. उनके बारे में बताइए please. Because that's something so important and powerful, and you mashallah say from the family, another जिसको कहते हैं dimension hold together spiritual से हटकर, तो नाना, right?
Yes.
जी please बताइए, नाम बताइए.
So Sayyid Qasim Rizvi, he was the head of Ittihadul Muslimin, which was the ruling party of Hyderabad Deccan before the Operation Polo, whereby the Indian army
That is in
invaded.
50s, Operation Polo?
It was 2 years after partition. So 48, 49.
Okay.
Yeah.
Operation Polo. So ठीक है. And he was the main person leading
the resistance.
The resistance.
The Razakars.
Was he in an army?
No, so he was the head of the ruling political party. So
Okay.
although it was a monarchy, it was like a British monarchy, which means it was a democratic monarchy. So the monarch was a figurehead, but the running of the state was a political
हाँ, लेकिन
thing.
उनकी हैदराबाद के जो निज़ाम थे उनकी भी तो अपनी आर्मी थी, या उनकी भी एक फोर्स थी ना?
वो basically Turkish
उन्होंने भेजी थी?
Turkish army वो थी, but the Razakars were basically a volunteer army of the youth from the top sort of Muslim families, and also some Hindus as well. तो वो एक volunteer army थी, because this was building up. The pressure from the Indian Union was building up, and they realized that at some point it might come to a armed conflict or an invasion where they would have to resist the Indian army. So वो उनकी ट्रेनिंग और वो सारा कुछ अरसे से शुरू हुआ हुआ था.
तो ये जो आपके नाना थे कासिम रिजवी साहब, इन्होंने इस मूवमेंट को आगे बढ़ाया, लेकिन वो eventually वो concede करना पड़ा because निज़ाम ने concede कर दिया था. तो
So my grandfather never conceded.
I know. So but the Nizam did, right?
The Nizam conceded. My grandfather was arrested and had to face a military tribunal. He was in solitary confinement for 9 years, but he was a lawyer. He fought his own case and eventually he won the case. So
Okay.
they were not able to prove any of the allegations because उन्होंने काफ़ी सारे उन पे allegations लगाए थे, which even a military tribunal couldn't prove. So he was proved innocent. लेकिन उन्होंने एक condition ये रखी थी to release him that within 48 hours he will leave India and come to Pakistan.
Okay.
तो वो 48 आवर्स में उन्होंने अपनी सारी प्रॉपर्टी और सारा कुछ जो है वो इत्तेहादुल मुस्लिमीन के नाम किया. He appointed the new head of the political party, the Ovaisis, who are till today. Yeah, the Ovaisi family is the head of Ittihadul Mu'mineen, and that is the only Muslim political force in India till today.
Okay. And then वो पाकिस्तान आ गए.
वो पाकिस्तान
With the
आ गए.
family. And your mother was.
Well, my grandmother was sent 9 years earlier.
Okay, पहले आ गई थी वो आपकी mother के साथ.
With 9 children. She was pregnant. She had 9 children. And overnight, they had to, be whisked away to Pakistan because my grandfather said that they will be used as to manipulate him.
Okay.
So he didn't want them to be able to use the family to get him to concede or sign anything.
Okay.
वो
family weakness होती है तो उसकी वजह से.
हाँ.
सही. तो ये जो आपकी मदर, तो ये आपकी फैमिली में खानदानी नवाबीपन तो होगा फिर.
Well, my actually my
मैं नवाबीपन जब कह रहा हूँ, ये खूबसूरती जो है नवाबपन की, या हैदराबाद दक्कन की, उसकी बात कर रहा हूँ.
जी, of course हैदराबाद दक्कन का culture was very this thing. So my grandfather came from a family of lawyers and academics and politically motivated. My grandmother was from royal blood and with Turkish blood and stuff like that. So, वो नवाबियत or the money and the wealth was actually my grandmother.
Okay.
So my grandfather was more the
rebel
or the freedom fighter. या उस category में आप उनको ला सकते हैं.
और क्या कहते हैं, जो वो होती है कपड़े पहनने का तरीका, या फिर वो उस ज़माने में मलमल के गरारे पहने जाते थे, पानदान साथ चलता था ख़वातीन के भी, वो सारा कुछ.
But the thing is that because we came from such a politically active family and तो emphasis ज़्यादा education पे और इन चीज़ों पे था. I mean, obviously the style is innate, you know, वो तो है ही है. But like all my grandfather sent my mother to Lebanon, Beirut for her education. All the daughters were sent.
बेरूत तो सेंटर होता था.
So yeah, and all the daughters were sent for education, higher education. One was a doctor, lawyer. You know, my mother became, entered politics. So
your mother was in politics.
So my mother is one of the founding members of MQM, and she was a member of parliament as well till she resigned.
Okay. Wow. Zabardast. So, did you ever get a chance to go to India, Hyderabad?
Once.
When was that?
That was around 2006, I think.
Did you go to the family house, or was it there still, or anything like that?
So the family house was now like a huge like housing society.
Oh.
With like thousands of houses.
Okay. So Haveli is converted into a society.
Yeah, because it was a huge property, which is now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to see the other monuments of Hyderabad and Dakkan की जो नवाब की जो चीजें थी उनके, I don't know.
Yeah, and I got to meet like the mayor and the political people there because अभी भी अगर आप नानाबा का वहाँ नाम लें तो वहाँ वो हिल जाते हैं,
Wow.
you know, the corridors of power just kind of shake.
नाना अब्बा जब यहाँ पाकिस्तान आ गए तो आई थिंक वो लेट 50s में या 60s में आए होंगे, तो उसके बाद उनकी क्या एक्टिविटी रही यहाँ पर?
He practiced law in Lahore.
पॉलिटिक्स में नहीं आए?
No, he was offered all sorts of positions, political positions, you know, मतलब from the top to everything, but he refused. और you see वो 9 साल बाद you know कायदे आज़म was assassinated, और जो कुछ हुआ है आफ्टर पार्टीशन
जी
वो
जी
हम
जी
सबके सामने
नहीं वो फातिमा जिन्ना
को
को
जी
जी
जी जी
अच्छा
मतलब I believe even Jinnah was killed.
I know he
But
was
yeah,
left to
हाँ,
die.
exactly. And वो अपना लियाकत अली खान, Fatma Jinnah, like the whole old school that who he had been, who were his colleagues and who had been, you know, working towards this dream. And वो तो कायदे आज़म के साथ तो उनका continuous वो एक राब्ता था, and they were, you know, planning all this together. तो वो लोग ही नहीं रहे, वो जो नए लोग आ गए वो आपको पता है क्या सीन हो गया था उसके बाद. So he was very disappointed and he had no.
And also, Atiya, I saw, I mean, I think that you had been very vocal about rights and politics and system and all that. कभी आपने नहीं सोचा पॉलिटिक्स में आने के लिए?
So the only time that I was supporting a political movement was Musharraf Saab.
Okay.
Initially it was because Sheikh Nazim kind of gave him his blessings, and I feel that and this was after he was no longer in power,
Okay.
when he was trying to come back into power. तो वो APML उन्होंने
जी,
एक
जी,
पार्टी
जी।
वार्टी शुरू की थी. So I was actively supporting him politically, but other than that, no one else, because I feel that he's really the only person who understood governance, who understood the importance of reforms and you know, constitutional, institutional reforms and what is required, and had a roadmap. And you know, I mean, what he did for this country was amazing, and nobody else compares as far as I'm concerned.
At this point, I would want to tell my viewers about Atiya's another journey, which is again interesting, and also a bit of how I met her. इस्लामाबाद में एक हमारा मेडिटेशन सेशन हो रहा था, और उस मेडिटेशन सेशन में हमारे जो दूसरी कॉलीग्स हैं उनके साथ मैं कर रहा था, तो बहुत सारे लोग थे, कोई 25-40 लोग थे. तो उसमें जब सारा मेडिटेशन सेशन ख़त्म हो गया तो हम सबसे पूछते हैं कि कैसा रहा आपका सेशन, क्या हुआ. तो एक लेडी शी वेक्स अप, बिकॉज उससे पहले आप सो जाते हैं मेडिटेट करके या लेट जाते हैं, तो वेक्स अप एंड सिटिंग फार बिहाइंड. और उठने के बाद वो कहती है अच्छा लगा, लेकिन मुझे पता है ये सब क्या होता है. तो मुझे मुस्कुराहट भी हुई, और मैंने नहीं पहचाना इनको, ना मैं इनको वैसे पर्सनली जानता था. खैर वहाँ से फिर मैंने इनसे सलाम दुआ हुई और बातचीत हुई, और उसके बाद इन्होंने थोड़ा बहुत ज़िक्र किया, और फिर हम उस दिन अपनी जिस जगह पर थे इस्लामाबाद में, वहाँ हमारा बैठक रही और काफ़ी इनके बारे में मालूमात हुई. और वहाँ से आकर फिर मैंने कराची में इनसे मुलाकात की, और फिर हमारी मुलाकात रही. उन मुलाकातों में इन्होंने मुझे बहुत कुछ बताया, सिखाया, और जो इनकी अपनी एक जर्नी थी, क्योंकि मेरी अपनी एक जर्नी है जो कि डिफरेंट उससे घूम के आ रही है. वो कहते हैं ना राउंड अबाउट्स होते हैं हर किसी की ज़िंदगियों में. तो इनकी जो जर्नी थी वो बिल्कुल ही अलग थी, जो कि सूफीज़म से ताल्लुक़ रखती थी. उस वक्त ये काम कर रही थी अपनी एक खूबसूरत डॉक्यूमेंट्री पे, जिस पे अब हम बात भी करेंगे, कलंदर कोट पे. उन्होंने फिर अतिया ने मुझे बताया, और मुझे ना सिर्फ ये बताया, और उन्होंने बहुत सारे राज भी बताए, जो कि राज मेरे समझता हूँ मैं उस मामले में बिल्कुल ही इनलाइटेंड नहीं था. और जो आपने वो बताई चीज़ें, और जब डॉक्यूमेंट्री आप बना रही थी, और मुझे इतना अच्छा लगा कि ना सिर्फ वो डॉक्यूमेंट्री आपने शूट करवाई की, और उसकी एडिटिंग भी आप कर रही थी, और उसको सारा कुछ. और उसके बाद फिर ये मुझे 2-4 जगह ले भी गई, और वहाँ 2-4 जगह ले जाने की वजूहात भी थी. शायद इनको तो जाना ही था, ये तो जाती रहती थी, लेकिन मेरे लिए वो बहुत बड़ा कुछ एक ज़िंदगी का वो था. वो किसी और उसमें बताऊँगा मैं आप लोगों को. मैं अतिया से पूछना चाहता हूँ कि वो जो छुपी रुस्तम अतिया जो दूर बैठी हुई थी, उसने काफ़ी कुछ हिला कर रख दिया था मुझे. सो आप मुझे कलंदर कोड के बारे में बताएं और फिर मुझे हैंड ऑफ फातिमा का भी बताइए और फिर उसके बाद हम आरज़ाई पे आएंगे आपकी। जी।
So, 2001 was when I went for the first time to Seven Sharif, and वहाँ जो मैंने एक्सपीरियंस किया, it was so radically different from the kind of Islam that we are used to, कि बड़ा टाइम लगा उसको समझने में. The Qalandar Code actually was released in 2019 and I started filming in 2001.
Wow, it took you 19 years.
It took that long.
Wow.
या तो इनिशियली तो ये था कि यही समझना कि भाई कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ कलंदर क्या है, उसमें 10 साल उसमें लग गए. उसके बाद जो वहाँ के मलंग वगैरह थे, दे केप्ट सेइंग कि जब तक आप लाहौत नहीं जाएंगे आपको समझ नहीं आएगा, पूरी स्टोरी आपको समझ नहीं आएगी. तो मैंने कहा ये तो समझ नहीं आ रहा है, अब एक और चक्कर में आप लोग जा रहे हैं. एंड लाहौत वाज वेरी डिफ़िकल्ट टू गेट टू ऑल्सो बिकॉज वो बलूचिस्तान था उस ज़माने में, सिक्योरिटी इश्यूज़ वगैरह थे, तो मुझे बहुत लोग डिस्करेज कर रहे थे. बट इवेंचुअली इन 2011 द मलंग्स केम एंड दे सेड हम आपको लेके जा रहे हैं.
Okay.
उधर से फिर जो एक नया पहलू जो एक्सपीरियंस हुआ, दैट ऑफ कोर्स देन बिकेम द एक्चुअल बैकबोन
Crux of the Kalander
of
Code.
the story.
वो बताइए हमें क्या था वो?
So basically there's a parallel हिस्ट्री कह लें या लेजेंड कह लें कि जो बीबी फातिमा हैं, she didn't die but was taken into hiding and brought to Lahut. And Lahut is the home of Bibi Fatma and Hazrat Ali. It's a sacred cave in Balochistan. तो उसमें फिर वो पूरा उसको समझने की कोशिश कि भाई इज़ दैट इवन पॉसिबल, आई मीन हाउ. तो एज वी नो कि देयर इज़ अ लॉट ऑफ मिस्ट्री सराउंडिंग द डेथ ऑफ बीबी फातिमा, कि उनको मतलब अंधेरे में कहते हैं दफन किया गया. नोबडी वाज देयर एट द फ्यूनरल एक्सेप्ट फॉर द इमीडिएट फैमिली. तो वो एक मिस्ट्री है. देयर आर लॉट ऑफ things within the actual history that gives you that leeway कि हाँ, maybe this was because she didn't actually die and was brought there. तो एक basically concept ये है कि एक conflict था whereby she was the one who refused to accept political Islam or refused to accept ये जो एक लीडरशिप जो हमारी her conflict with Hazrat Abu Bakr and the Khalifas and refusing to take bayat and the conflict that resulted from that. तो वो kind of the fact that she was denied her inheritance, and her inheritance was not just for me, fadak or a piece of land, but the inheritance was the fact that she is the inheritor of the Prophet.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So वो डिस्कवरी हुई और उसके बाद देन उसको आगे लेकर आप चली और फिर उसकी डॉक्यूमेंट्री का आपका वो हिस्सा रही. तो जब डॉक्यूमेंट्री आप बना रही थी, आपने जब सोचा 2001 से और 19 में जाकर आपने रिलीज की, तो उस दौरान तो ये जो इनलाइटमेंट हो रही होगी, ये सारी जो नॉलेज आ रही होगी, तो उस हिसाब से डॉक्यूमेंट्री का भी वो चेंज हो रहा होगा फ्रेमवर्क सारा.
बिल्कुल. So obviously there were many versions of
अच्छा.
Qalandar Code.
So did you kept on shooting?
Yes, because it was, yes. So I kept shooting throughout. I would keep returning. I would keep asking more questions. I would keep discovering, more of. It is like a code, which is why it's called the Qalandar Code. So उसको पूरा decipher करना कि ये लोग बात क्या कर रहे हैं.
Okay. एंड देन जो कलंदर कोड आपने रिलीज़ की, तो उसके अंदर फाइनल वर्जन में क्या आप बताना चाहेंगे कि व्हाट वाज द फाइनल वर्जन ऑफ इट?
So it starts off with this question that could the Mahdi be a woman? And not saying any woman, but could the Mahdi be the kind of return of Bibi Fatma? बिकॉज़ वहाँ ये भी एक लेजेंड है कि यहीं से इमाम मेहदी ज़हूर करेंगे. So it's the whole concept of the sacred feminine, and then, this story had amazing parallels to, let's say, the story of Mary Magdalene and her sort of journey to the sacred caves in the south of France. And there were parallels between what the Malangs had preserved with those stories of what the Gnostics in the Christian tradition had preserved. Because basically जो Malangon का concept है वो ये है कि Lal Shahbaz Qalandar is the same consciousness as Adam alayhi salam, Shiva, Jesus, Hazrat Ali, and Lal Shahbaz. That they're the same being that keeps coming back in these different forms. तो उसमें फिर एक concept आता है कि what about their counterpart? So the feminine aspect of this
Divine
couple.
femininity, yeah.
So of course Adam ke saath Eve hai, and then Shakti with Shiva, and Mary Magdalene with and Jesus, and then Bibi Fatma with Hazrat Ali. So it became the story of this couple, the parents of all of mankind, who keep coming back to earth to try and help their children to find their way back to the truth and eventually find their way back to their heavenly home.
So, इसका मैंने सुना था कोई part 2 भी है या आएगा या आ गया है?
So the part 1 took 19 years. Now
I
let's
know.
see
But
how
did you-
long
but did you
So
think
I'm
about
working on it. So
You
we
were
went. I made a trip to the south of France and sort of pursued that whole. फिर वो David आ गए
Yeah.
बीच में. तो उनके साथ he represented the Gnostic side of it, the Christian side of it, and so to kind of unravel the more universal aspect of this story.
Okay, wonderful. Atiya, अब आपने before I go to your clothing brand, वो भी एक बड़ा ज़बरदस्त chapter है. You never thought about marrying again? How is it life being single? Are you comfortable, or you just don't want to, or you want to? Please, would you want to share something? Shed light.
I think once you have kids, तो वो जो एक urgency होती है या आपका biological clock वाला जो चक्कर होता है वो नहीं होता है. So then your criteria is different.
Okay.
There's no compulsion to get married
Obviously
for the
not.
sake of
But
getting
companionship
married.
तो हर किसी को required होती है.
I have lots of friends, and
So you find it comfortable that way?
Yes.
Okay. At this point, I would want you to share your clothing brand, जिसका हम बड़ा recent times में देख रहे हैं और बड़ी ज़बरदस्त आपकी range है और उसमें कोई सूफीज़म भी है, उसमें spiritualism भी है, उसके बारे में बताइए.
So I feel that fashion is a very, very powerful medium, and through fashion we can give messages, we can reach a different audience. तो मेरी filmmaking जो है उस has never been a business. So the work that I do is non-commercial, and I did need a source of income also to fund my my films and stuff like that. So fashion was a logical choice because of my affiliation with the fashion industry for so many years. But I wanted to combine spirituality with fashion and bring about a brand which I would say that how can clothing empower us, heal us, be kind of like an amulet of protection. तो उसमें फिर मैंने रिसर्च की about fabrics, number one, how different fabrics have different frequencies, and how certain fabrics can raise your frequency and how certain fabrics can lower your frequency. So linen and cotton, I only use linen and cotton because they're very high frequency fabrics that help us raise our frequency. Anything that's mixed or synthetic or even silk lowers your frequency. And then, of course, the power of sacred symbols. So I've used basically in my embellishment, whether it's prints or embroidery, hand embroidery, of different sacred symbols from different faith traditions. And each of these symbols has a different quality or power. Some are for protection, some are for healing, some are for to kind of empower you in different ways.
तो अभी ये जो आपकी ब्रांड है ये किस स्टेज पे है, क्या बिजनेस मॉडल है, हु आर यू केटरिंग टू, किस किस्म के, मतलब पाकिस्तान में, इंटरनेशनली, और किस किस्म के बच्चे, बूढ़े, जवान, या किस सोसाइटी में ये आपकी जो है कपड़े पहने जा सकते हैं?
So right now, I've not focused too much on Pakistan other than my own immediate circle. I have been, it has been very, very popular with, foreigners, and also very high powered women, and very people who are spiritually aware, who understand the philosophy behind the brand.
So basically for alpha women.
For alpha women and men.
Okay. You have men range too?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So उन लोगों के लिए है जो enlightened हो थोड़े से अभी तक, और जो obviously afford भी कर सकते हो इस product को, because इतनी इसके अंदर प्योर फैब्रिक भी है, इसके अंदर एम्बेलिशमेंट भी बड़ी ज़बरदस्त हैं, उस पर भी काफ़ी काम लगता होगा, मेहनत लगती होगी, और इसकी जो कहते हैं ना, कंस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ द होल ensemble is very very immaculate. So as I see it, you wearing it, so
yeah, this is one of the casual range, because this is the printed one, but the hand embroidered ones are very of course very intricate and time consuming.
Even this one
like
I feel has a very subtle and a nice feel that one could see कि इसकी जो सीम्स भी जो मुझे दिख रही हैं, जो इसकी जो फ्लो भी है, फॉल भी है, प्रिंट भी, जो भी आप कहेंगी इसको, तो it's very well done.
So we're very, very careful with the finishing. Even our labels are hand embroidered. Our stitching is invisible stitching. So I think luxury is in the details. So ये है कि there a lot of thought has gone into each design, and it's for the discerning clients who appreciate that attention to detail.
That's wonderful. So when would we see, as in Pakistan में किस वक्त ये आप इसको मज़ीद इसको for everyone, जो आम लोग होते हैं उनके लिए आएगी आपकी ये ब्रांड, ये आउटफिट्स, जब लोग ईद और बकरीद पे भी पहन सकें?
Till now, I haven't really
Thought about it?
I haven't really done that kind of marketing for mainstream. It's more of an exclusive kind of a brand. But I think कि वही बात है ना कि इसके साथ साथ लोगों को educate भी करना ज़रूरी है कि what is the meaning behind the symbols, what is the significance of the brand, and how it can.
Do you think our generation Z would like to wear them?
I think there is a growing awareness of spirituality and sort of organic and to try and be more conscious in your choices, in your lifestyle. So whether it's fashion, clothing, or what you eat, or your practices, it has to be more holistic. And I think people are beginning to understand that it all has to come together. um, because also हमारे पास अब there's so much of an onslaught of negative energy कह लें, या so many things bringing us down.
क्लटर बहुत है हाँ.
I mean, on so many levels,
Yeah.
right? I think we're living in very, very alarming times, whether it's climate or economy or politics, or there's almost like we're going more and more towards like that Dajjal kind of a system, where negativity is all around us. So how can we protect ourselves? How can we shield ourselves through everything that we do?
At this point, I would like to ask you about this whole हमारा जो concept है Gen X to Gen Z. How do you relate to be born in the times when there was no internet, cell phones, technology, and then growing up in that time, Jawani and all that, and then coping up with the present times with all the social media, internet, and technology? How do you relate? कुछ बताएं इस बारे में.
I think that we grew up in amazing times. I think we have the best of both worlds. So we saw that much more, like innocent time tha, growing up. Things were very, maybe artificially so, but everything was, Little House on the Prairie, kind of a fantasy of
simple times, bicycle चलाने वाले time.
And as far as technology is concerned, I feel it's a tool. It's made our life so much easier. जो चीज़ आपको महीनों लग जाती थी, वो अब आपको मिनटों में आप कर सकते हैं. So I think there are definite advantages, but it's also addictive. So how do we create a balance so that you're not completely sucked into technology and you still are able to have
as
fulfilling
organic as you were
experiences?
Do you remember back in time then हमें जुबानी कितने phone numbers याद होते थे?
Exactly.
अब तो अपने नंबर के अलावा शायद किसी का याद हो.
अपना भी मुश्किल से याद होता है.
और फिर वो जब there was no email, no social media, और अब सारा कुछ है, और हम लोगों ने जिस तरीके से अडैप्ट किया है, उस बारे में आप क्या कहेंगी? Isn't it beautiful?
That's exactly. The convenience that we have now with technology is absolutely amazing. But the downside is कि आपका attention span बहुत छोटा हो गया है. There's too much content out there. पहले, information was precious. So content was precious. Ab everybody is a content creator. There's too much information out there. And I think people's minds are overburdened with information. So अब वो opposite है, that how do we cultivate quiet, peace? How do we disconnect? वो चीज़ें important होगी. And I think in that the currency is no longer information, it's energy and frequency.
Absolutely, that's a beautiful way of putting it. And how do you मतलब आपकी जो communication कह लें या relation कह लें with your own children and other Gen Z के बच्चे, तो आप क्या समझती हैं कि कैसी? और दूसरा, don't you think वो माशाल्लाह से बहुत ज़्यादा समझदार हैं आपके बच्चे या नहीं?
So, I've never treated younger people as different from adults, because for my own experience, I know that even as a child, I was a soul. I was a fully aware being, and that's how I treat young people as well. I do not disregard them or think that I know better or I am, more qualified because of my years. I think we're all souls and we all have something very, very important to contribute. And I find great wisdom in children and young people.
And is it vice versa as well? Did you ever get to hear कि माँ you're too old, आपको समझ में नहीं आएगी बात?
No.
नहीं?
I think my kids, we have a friendship. You
Okay.
know, we are on an equal footing. I've
Okay.
never played the.
They don't think that you're old school at all, right?
No, I think they think I'm a bit too wild and crazy and a bit nuts. I think they're in some ways more sober than I am, or more grounded, or more
That's
mature.
beautiful. That the credit goes to you then. You know, you have kept up with everything else so that your kids don't think that way. And same goes for me as well, because I had to do this because I never wanted my kids to think or say कि you are too old, you don't know this. तो मैं भी अपने आप को टेक्नोलॉजी में भी वैसे भी कोशिश की हमेशा से आगे रखने के लिए. ये हमारे लिए मैं समझता हूँ बहुत बड़ी अचीवमेंट है being Gen X, to be able to have not just survived, but we are at par with them using, चाहे वो टेक्नोलॉजी का यूजेज हो, चाहे वो इंस्टाग्राम हो, चाहे वो सोशल मीडिया हो, and this is with almost every one of us जो हमारी जनरेशन के लोग हैं, क्योंकि हम तो उस ज़माने से आ रहे हैं जब टेलीफोन भी रोटरी वाले होते थे, कॉल लॉन्ग डिस्टेंस कॉल मिलानी पड़ती थी, ट्रंक कॉल जिसको कहते थे. So I think we've done good, and this is the bridging element that we have achieved to be able to be here in this age and time. But how do you see technology going ahead and then you keeping up with this?
Well, I mean, it's AI door now, right? It's all about artificial intelligence and how are we going to, what kind of relationship are we going to have with artificial intelligence? How are we going to navigate it, and how are we going to remain autonomous and sovereign?
आपको पता है, आपने AI का जिक्र किया. मैं आजकल जो अपने कर रहा हूँ इंटरव्यूज़, और आपके इंटरव्यू में भी बहुत सारे कुछ सवालात मैंने AI से भी लिए हुए हैं. वहाँ मैं डालता हूँ आपका प्रोफाइल और उससे पूछता हूँ कि भाई बताओ कि क्या पूछा जाए. तो ये भी AI का कमाल है. At this point, I would like to thank my dear, beautiful, talented, and such an enlightened guest, अतिया. बहुत शुक्रिया आपका आने का, बात करने का, हमें सारी अपनी जर्नी के बारे में बताने का, इतनी ज़्यादा अच्छी ज़बरदस्त इन्फॉर्मेशन शेयर करने का. आई एम सो डिलाइटेड टू हैव यू हियर. प्लीज़ कीप कमिंग बैक to our platform and keep enlightening us with your knowledge and wisdom.
Thank you so much. And it was a pleasure being here and having this wonderful discussion with you. And I would love to return and be a part of Generation X to Z and on this beautiful YouTube channel. So definitely we will inshallah continue this talk.
वो बातें तेरी की जानिब से इतनी खूबसूरत पॉडकास्ट और जेन एक्स टू जेन जी की सीरीज़ के सिलसिले में नवीद फ़ारूकी का आपको आदाब.